Hello there. BBC and the gender pay gap. And I always find it amusing to see a company like the BBC, who I don't like, tie themselves in knots trying to work out how they can make everything equal for everybody without penalising people. They're sort of like a mini, very wealthy mini communist regime, aren't they, where you've got people on different money for different reasons, and more of them tend to be men. Okay, but the pay gap, the gender pay gap at the BBC is 7.6%. Now, I think in the rest of the world, I think it's something like there's about a 30% difference or something. That Barack Obama famously said a woman has to work 3 extra months a year to earn the same money as a man. You know, what a slimy piece of crap he was, by the way. Anyway, so I'm just going to talk briefly about the BBC, and then I'm going to try to, the best as I can, explain to my knowledge of the reasons why there is a gap. Okay, so first of all, the main headline is Gary Lineker, Graham Norton, Chris Evans. I think Chris Evans was the highest earner, and I think he willingly took a pay cut. Don't worry, Chris Evans fans, he's going to be fine. He's quite a lot of money. He's okay. But some men have had their salaries deducted. And I remember reading somewhere, the BBC did this study, and they used this sort of algorithm to try to find out, because I think they did accept that there are some differences. You know, if, say for instance, you know, you've got someone working in there that's got 30 years of experience in the field, it's understandable they might earn more than someone doing a similar job but with 5 years experience in the field. Makes sense. To me it makes sense, you know, and obviously to an employer it does, for the experience they have. So that, yeah, I think when they did this check, they actually had to pay some men more money than they were earning, because it was actually the wrong way round. Women doing the same job, like level of experience, etc., were getting paid more than the men. And actually, I believe there are, if you look in the age, in their 20s, a lot of women are being paid more nowadays than men for doing exactly the same work. So they've all got like comparative experience and skills, qualifications, etc. Women are actually earning more in those roles. And I think one way to look at it would be, if it was true that you didn't have to pay women as much for doing exactly the same job, same experience and everything, why would any men ever get a job? Surely you would only employ women. I would, if I was an employer. Anyway, so some of the main reasons. Choice is a massive, massive factor here. So there was a call out from the women in Tesco's, the checkout girls. They were earning a bit less, like £1 or £2, I don't know how much it was an hour, less than the guys in a warehouse. Now, I'm sure if you get the application form for the warehouse job, it doesn't say this job is only for men to do. And by the way, the men in Tesco's that work on the shop floor are earning the same as the women on the shop floor. The people that work in a warehouse get paid more because the job is harder. Working outside in the cold, or in the extreme heat, or in the wind and the rain sometimes. Lugging heavy boxes around, you know, not in a nice air-conditioned environment. And it's that environment of work that is a big, big factor. And women generally tend to choose a more pleasant environment. I briefly spoke about this a little while ago, and I asked you to, if you're driving along late at night and you see some guys doing roadworks, you know, when they sort of 10, 11 o'clock at night, when they're going to work through the night, basically. They've got the floodlights on, the wind and the rain is howling into their faces, and sleet and snow, whatever, and they're working through the night. That job there isn't just for men. They don't discriminate, but I don't think many women apply for that job. Women tend to, and good for them, by the way, before people sort of think I'm criticising that. You know, look at me, I left a hot and sticky kitchen for a nice, comfortable car to work in instead. You know, it's my choice. Right? I earn a bit less money, but I'm happier. All right? So, you know, a woman may choose to work in an office doing some admin work or secretarial work, and it wouldn't pay as much as those guys working through the night. But don't get it twisted. Those guys working through the night, they're not rich men. They're not going on holidays in Barbados. They're just earning a bit more money. And I think it's people like that. It's the people that are going to be earning the few quid above the minimum wage that suffer most through these sort of appropriate, whatever you call it, these actions where they try to make things more equal. It's a very Marxist sort of way, everyone must have the same. And it's people like that suffer mostly, because what's the point of them doing that then? What's the point of them doing that less comfortable job, working more hours and stuff? So, also women choose to work a few less hours than men, generally speaking. It's their choice. Men tend to take fewer sick days, I believe, than women. There are all these different factors in there. Yeah, I suppose the old traditional sort of family, the husband went off to work and the lady stayed at home, it's changed slightly because living standards have gone up so much. So women will work part-time now. And I don't think that's taken into consideration when they do these facts and figures either. Just generally how much work someone is doing. And there's another factor that men tend to be less agreeable than women. And now I've got this from, if you watch Jordan Peterson's interview with Cathy Freeman, if you haven't seen it, just watch it for the pure entertainment value. It is hilarious to watch this very driven woman, who's a big earner, I guess, in her position she's got to, refuse to accept any of these sort of lists of reasons why there is a difference in pay. And Jordan Peterson pointed out to her, he said, men tend to be less agreeable than women, on average. Take 100 men, 100 women, and by agreeable he means women are less than likely to demand a pay rise at work, whereas men will say, no, I'm worth it, pay me more money, or I'm leaving for a competitor. And women will avoid that. I don't think that means women are less agreeable in the home. I think it's just the workplace, from personal experience. And you watch her, and then he will say to her, so you're doing all right for yourself, aren't you? You're probably not that agreeable. She goes, no, I'm a very difficult woman. He goes, there you go. Well done for you. Like, he goes, more power to you, because you have refused to just take it. You've probably been prepared to step on a few people's toes to get where you are and to get to the position you've got into. And good for you, Cathy Freeman. But don't then pretend that, there's other factors involved in it. You got that position, you got that money because you wanted it, and you wanted it more than other people, and you forced your way into it. Plus, talent, obviously. I watched the other day Jonathan Pye, who I think is brilliant actually for a lefty, even though I think he's more of a fictional character. He did this thing where he interviewed Melissa Stevens, and she's written a book on this gender pay. And the whole point of this interview, the joke of it was that he just assumed that she was going to be on his side of the narrative. It's all unfair in women, and she broke it down brilliantly. I do recommend you look for that. Jonathan Pye, Melissa Stevens. It's a really, really good interview. And so then the final one, the one that always trumps it for the feminists, and I include men as being feminists as well, is what about the CEOs? What about the guys at the top of the FTSE 100? I think only 7% of people in those positions are women. Okay, so it's a really, really big difference. Okay, so can I be a CEO in a big FTSE company? There's not a chance in hell, right? You have to have certain, I'll say, qualities and characteristics, because some of these I wouldn't say were a quality, but you have to have, number one, you have to be very, very smart. I think they tend to be, sort of in the 150, 160 sort of IQ bracket. Okay, now the way this is going to trigger some ladies, I'm sorry about this, the way IQ is distributed between the sexes is different. Women tend to be grouped more in the middle, so the average IQ of men and women is virtually the same. There's almost no difference. There are more very, very smart men than there are very, very smart women, and there are more very, very stupid men than there are very, very stupid women. It doesn't mean there aren't incredibly smart, very, very high intelligence women, and also some very stupid women. It just tends to be that women tend to be grouped more in the middle, and men this end and this end, if that makes any sense. That's one quality you need to have that job. So there will be more men with that. Also, you have to add into it the sheer bloody mindedness, the determination, the ambition to go with it, that aggressiveness. Do you think those CEOs haven't sort of had some bloke up by the scruff of his neck in the men's toilets, threatening he's going to smash him up if he doesn't, if he goes in for the interview that he wants to the position for? All of that stuff. These people will sell their own children to get what they want. These people will probably work 90, 100 hours a week. Probably every single waking hour is about work, and that's only thing that drives them. They've got nothing else other than this just absolute drive to get to the top. And there will be more men like that than women. Probably 93 out of 100 would be men and 7 would be women. And there you go. 7 out of 100 in those positions are females. And if you can't see that, any of those reasons there, I think you're suffering from this cognitive dissonance where you just, no matter what you hear, you've got your mind set and there's nothing you do to make it up. And it's not necessarily your fault, because all of the mainstream media, whenever they talk about it, they refuse to acknowledge any of those factors that I've just pointed out there. I think I've actually done it quite well. I was going to sort of criticise myself and say, my dumb ass is going to do his best to get it across, but I actually think I did quite well. I think there's nothing else. Oh, there was one other factor, yeah. Women have babies. Men can't have babies. Women do have babies. And quite often, up until about the age of 30, women and men are doing the same, especially like in professional industries, in medicines and in legal fields, especially in legal fields, I believe. But then women will go, right, I'm going to have babies now. And they've married another guy who's a probably good earner. They've got a very nice middle class lifestyle. Tabitha and Timothy are going to go to nice schools. She will then put her career on hold and she might go back to it later on. But that's the choice as well. And if you own a business and you employ 100 people or something like that, and 20 of them are on maternity leave, that's really going to hurt your business, financially, because you've got to keep paying them, and some of them don't even come back. They just take the maternity to the limit and then they're gone. And you've got to employ somebody else in the interim to do it. You've got to pay that person a bit more because that's a short-term contract while someone's on maternity leave. These factors are all very, very relevant. And one other thing that I missed there, sorry, before I was congratulating myself on doing so well, if you look at Scandinavia, where I think most people agree that they've gone out of their way to make themselves the least sexist area on the planet, give an absolute choice to people to be able to do whatever they want to do, you'll actually find the sort of gender specified roles is even more exaggerated. There are even more women that go into nursing and even more men go into engineering than in other areas of the world. It's choice and it's genetics. Men and women are slightly different, and there are reasons for it. And men can't live without women, and women can't live without men. We could all just live together happily if the Marxists out there weren't trying to just destroy the family and put all these reasons why we should turn against each other. Don't fall for it, ladies. We're quite nice, really, most men. Anyway, that's this one over. Coming from my palatial place where I'm obviously male privilege, earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. Oh no, sorry, no, I'm driving a taxi and I don't earn much at all. But there you go. I'm still happy. Thank you very much for watching this one. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you soon.